Well, good morning, everybody. I am here in what I call my happy place. This is my happy place. It's called Door County. And here's the lesson of the day that I want to kind of give to you. 4 days ago, Angelique and I were getting on an airplane with two young children. And for those of you out there who are parents, know that perhaps there's no moment where you're more frustrated or more in fear of getting on a plane and knowing what your children are going to do for the next 3 hours. And Angelique looked at me and she said, "Why are we doing this? Why are we putting ourselves through this?" Because the baby was crying and we had all this luggage. And she said, "Why are we doing this?" And I asked myself why. Because yeah, it's tough. 3 hours on an airplane with two toddlers and all that luggage is tough. And then what happened? This is what happened. That's what happened. We got here and we came out onto this porch and we took a deep breath and we looked at that water, and we looked at those trees and we said, there's our answer. That's why we did it. Because there was a small amount of uncomfort on that airplane, 3 hours, for 4 days of this. And there's a metaphor here, it's for your life. Everything that's going to be worthwhile is going to come at a cost. So if you're in a relationship with somebody, you got to pour into that relationship so it can be great and you can get what you want out of it. You got to be unselfish and sacrifice and give to your loved one in order to have a long life with them. If you're building a business, there's going to be things that you don't want to do that are uncomfortable. Just like getting on that plane with kids. Your business is going to take some work, but you build it so you have an income and you can enjoy the things in life that you want. And if you're doing residual income, then it's going to be tenfold. So do it and then enjoy it. So the other thing we talked about this morning is, here's the fall. And what happens in the fall is people want to take their little package and they want to wrap it up and say, I'm just going to put my business over here. Or here's my body that I've been working so hard on, but I'm just going to put it in this little box and I'm going to put it on a shelf because I know Halloween and Thanksgiving and football playoffs and Christmas and all these things are coming up. So they want to take their lives and all this stuff they worked so hard for at the beginning of this year. And they want to put it on a shelf and say, I'll put you here and I'll come get you on January 1st and we'll unwrap you and get started again. So the metaphor is it's like taking an apple and putting it in tinfoil and putting it on a shelf and say, I love this apple, but I'm going to wait till January 1st to come unwrap you and start eating it again. We know that's not going to look good, right? What's going to happen? So the key is to work hard over these next 3 months and get over anything that's been holding you back. So the last thing I'm going to talk to you about real quick is the fear. We talked about fear of doing things, of going through the painful parts in life to get what you need on the other side. And it's just like if you wanted to find real love and you never expected to get your heart broken or learn some tough lessons along the way, how unrealistic is that? It's the same thing with life. So there's going to be a moment where you're going to have to take that step and not know what's coming next and just do it anyway. And trust that even if you fall, you're falling where? You're falling forward. Those of you guys that were just on our Zoom call, we talked about this. Okay? Angelique and I, early in this year, we looked back on earlier in this year and we said, what did we really do that got our heart rate up? So some of it was fun, business. Some of it was, working. But there was one particular point where Angelique and I were in Hawaii and we were on this huge cliff. And as I was looking, I'm like, I want to jump off that into the water because I want to say I did that. And then I got up there on this cliff and I looked down and I sat up there for 15 minutes and I had two options: to go back down the way I came or to jump into the water. And I was scared, whatless. And I contemplated it for 15 minutes. But it took what? Not even 20 seconds of courage, guys. It took 2 seconds of courage for me to just say, okay, and what? The famous Nike slogan? What did I do? Just do it. Just do it. And I went into that water and I felt this rush, this exhilaration. So if you're trying to do something today and fear is holding you back, or maybe it's just a little bit of laziness, because we're all guilty of that. It's so much easier to sit there and flip a remote with our feet up on the couch than get up and do something that's really going to pay off long term. So like I started this story, 3 hours on the plane, asking ourselves why we would travel with 2 kids across country, and then you get there. This is why. There's always a reward waiting for you. There's a reward, but the reward comes at a cost. There's a book by Nick Vujicic, and he was born with no arms and no legs, and he makes this great point. He says some people just want a helicopter to come pick them up and put them in that spot. They don't want to work to get there. They don't want to climb the mountain. Now, we took a plane, and it's better than probably took a 20-hour drive or more to get here, probably 2 days if we had to drive. But the metaphor in life is you're not going to have something magically pick you up and put you there. So that plane ride was the uncomfortable part to get to where we want it to be. So I'll stop babbling and I'll say, look, imagine if this was Star Trek, right? In Star Trek, what do? They just went into a pod and then they just magically reappeared wherever they wanted to be. And we're going to complain because it took 3 hours on an airplane in a pretty comfortable seat in air condition while we were being fed food and drinks? That seems kind of odd because it's 2016. Imagine if we went back in time and it was 1800 and we wanted to go from Arizona all the way to Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. We would have had to take a freaking cattle wagon or some type of horse, and it would have took us weeks, if not a month. So I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you for joining me. Be grateful that we have the ability to do things and experience this. Just take one last look as I get ready to go say goodbye to Chris Harder, whose house we're at with his family. 3 hours of being uncomfortable on a plane with children, carrying all of our luggage, taking a taxi, and then driving another 3 hours here from Milwaukee Airport. So it's a total of 6 hours that we're going to have to make today. But this is why we do it. For the memories of seeing such a beautiful part of the country, for the memories of being with people that we care about. We've laughed so many times here. We had an awesome conversation last night about life and about God, and it just filled up our hearts. And we took so many pictures of things that we'll never forget. We got to go to a Packers game, so a little bit of uncomfort in the travel to get there. And the metaphor in life is, if you want anything worthwhile, you're going to have to work for it. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me.